All right, let's start with the man of the hour, Christian Horner. The name alone stirs up all kinds of reactions in the Formula One world. Love him or hate him, you can't ignore the shadow he casts. And now that shadow might be creeping right into the heart of Aston Martin. Not just as a team boss, but maybe something bigger, deeper, something more permanent. Because there's something brewing behind the scenes that feels less like a job switch and more like a long game. A game of power, money, and revenge. Here's where it gets juicy. Aston Martin's racing team, yeah, the same one that Lawrence Stroll rebuilt from the ashes of Force India, is in the middle of a serious shakeup. They just signed off on a deal to sell 4.6% of their Formula One team. Doesn't sound massive on the surface, right? But that sale is worth $146 million 0 cents. And for a company that's been getting rocked by weak earnings, economic turbulence in China, and US tariffs, that cash injection is a big deal. Huge. This isn't just about balance sheets, it's about direction. That move signals a shift, maybe even a repositioning of the entire organization. Aston Martin's been floating on the London Stock Exchange since 2018, but with its value dropping like a stone, from £4,330 million sterling 0 pence at launch, to just £826 million sterling 0 pence. Analysts are whispering one thing louder than ever: going private. But this isn't a corporate podcast, so let's zoom in on why you should care. Because while Aston Martin's corporate heads are trying to steady the ship, the racing team is skyrocketing in value. In just 1 year, the F1 squad jumped from being valued at $2,600 million 0 cents to $3,200 million 0 cents. That's not just random luck. That's investments, facilities, and a whole lot of behind-the-scenes magic. And here's where it gets deliciously strategic. Because guess who's reportedly hovering around that newly energized pit wall? Christian Horner, the same man Red Bull pushed out just weeks ago, and now he's being thrown around the betting markets as the top candidate to take over Aston Martin's racing operations. Odds-on favorite, in fact. And it's not just speculation, his potential return to the sport is being talked about like a chess move. Because let's not forget, Horner and Adrian Newey, that's a duo that's already built dynasties. Now imagine them doing it again, but this time with no corporate red tape, no Red Bull politics, and a fresh slate under a billionaire-backed operation with Honda power units coming in 2026. That's not just a comeback, that's a full-blown power grab. And timing? Oh, it's way too perfect. The stake sale, the rumors, the silence from Horner, all happening in the exact window where Aston Martin is laser-focused on the 2026 car. Fernando Alonso said it himself. The current season is done. All eyes are on the future, and they're not playing around. Adrian Newey isn't even touching the AMR 25. His attention is locked on the future. So, what if this isn't some last-minute decision? What if Horner's been watching, waiting, playing the long game? Red Bull slams the door on him, Ferrari's off the table, Mercedes isn't moving, but Aston Martin? They're cashed up, ambitious, and quietly restructuring their foundation while the rest of the grid plays checkers. And one more question nobody's asking loud enough. Who's buying that $146 million 0 cent stake? Because that's a missing piece. If Horner's involved in more than just a management role, if he or his allies are quietly shaping ownership, then we're not looking at a team hire. We're looking at the birth of a brand new power structure in Formula One. Christian Horner walking into Aston Martin wouldn't just be a headline, it would be a calculated power move. Because make no mistake, this isn't about filling a vacant chair on the pit wall. It's about stepping into a team mid-transformation, just as its pieces are quietly locking into place. You've got a minority stake sold, a possible delisting in the works, and behind it all, a billionaire owner who's proven he'll spend whatever it takes to win. Lawrence Stroll didn't rebuild this team to be a midfield player. He wants the throne. Let's talk money. That $146 million 0 cents isn't just pocket change. It's a strategic investment, and it's not clear who bought in. That silence? It's loud. Because if the buyer was a brand, an individual, or a known investor, they'd usually want their name attached for visibility. But nothing. Which opens the door for something wild. What if Horner's not just joining as team principal, but playing a deeper game? What if he's part of the group that just injected millions into this machine? That changes the entire conversation. Now you're not negotiating a salary, you're shaping the organization, and standing beside him like a silent architect is Adrian Newey. The man behind some of the most dominant F1 cars in history is reportedly not even touching the current season's car. His full focus? The 2026 build. That alone tells you how serious this is. Newey doesn't waste time, he doesn't tinker with B-tier projects. If he's locked in on the future, it means he believes that future is real, that it's worth building, and that whoever joins now gets a hand in shaping a championship contender from the ground up. Add to that the new factory at Silverstone, wind tunnel upgrades, and Honda power units coming in 2026, and suddenly Aston Martin doesn't look like an underdog, they look like a sleeping giant about to wake up pissed. And the thing is, this all fits Horner's style. He's not a quiet backroom player, he's a builder. He thrives in chaos, controls narratives, and plays the media game like a maestro. You don't stay at the top of Red Bull for nearly 2 decades without knowing how to pull strings in every room. Then there's the revenge angle. Let's not pretend his Red Bull exit was clean. He wasn't eased out. He was ripped from the throne, and it left a wound. So what better way to clap back than by aligning with Newey once more, this time without the shackles, and gunning straight for Red Bull with a fresh team and a clean slate. That's not just revenge, that's legacy rewriting. And speaking of legacy, Fernando Alonso isn't just a name on the driver's sheet, he's a signal. A 2-time world champion, laser focused on that 2026 car, who's made it clear the current season is a holding pattern. He's waiting, watching, and he's not wasting his time on a project unless he smells a shot at another title. Alonso isn't here for the paycheck. He's hunting one more moment in the spotlight, and he knows something's coming. When you add it all up, what's really happening is a quiet storm. Every move, every quote, every sale, every silence, it's all adding up to something massive. You've got a billionaire owner positioning his team, a technical genius sketching the blueprint, a legendary driver waiting in the wings, and now the most polarizing former boss in F1 history circling the perimeter, may be ready to take control of it all. This isn't silly season anymore. This is a high-stakes reset, and the rest of the grid, they're about to feel it. Red Bull might have thought they closed the book on Christian Horner, but instead, they may have opened a new chapter they can't control. And this one's being written by rivals with money, power, and the long memory of a man who's not used to losing. If Horner steps into Aston Martin, it's not just about rebuilding his career, it's about rewriting the competitive hierarchy of Formula One. And here's the kicker, Red Bull might have handed him the perfect opening by pushing him out when they did. Timing is everything in this sport. Every regulation change, every sponsorship deal, every engine partnership, it's all a dance of precision and foresight. The 2026 reset isn't just another season, it's a seismic shift. New engines, new chassis rules, and a level playing field for any team bold enough to go all in. Aston Martin knows this. That's why they're not pouring resources into 2025. They're holding fire, stacking chips. And if Horner joins before the curtain rises, he gets something no team principal ever really gets in modern F1, a blank canvas. No existing baggage, no politics from prior decisions, no half-built car to fix, just potential, pure uncut potential. And standing next to him, Adrian Newey, likely designing a monster of a machine in the shadows. Lawrence Stroll, bankrolling the mission with the patience of someone who isn't afraid to play the long game. Fernando Alonso, one of the most ruthless racers on the grid, waiting for the light to turn green. It's not a team, it's a loaded gun pointed straight at the establishment. Now, let's not pretend Red Bull's going to take this lightly. Losing Horner was one thing, but losing him to a rival team with Newey and Honda on board, that's a gut punch. Especially since Honda used to be Red Bull's golden ticket, and now they're about to power what could become Red Bull's most dangerous opponent. The very ingredients that made Red Bull dominant talent, sharp leadership, elite engineering, and a committed engine partner could now be repackaged under the Aston Martin name. What makes it even spicier, nobody knows who just bought that $146 million 0-cent stake. Not publicly, which opens the door to all kinds of speculation. A silent investor with deep ties to the sport? A tech giant sniffing a branding opportunity? Or maybe, just maybe, someone operating as a proxy for Horner's long-term return. That piece of the puzzle remains missing, but the timing is way too perfect to ignore. Meanwhile, the rest of the grid is either asleep or locked into long-term plans. Ferrari, committed to Vasseur, Mercedes, in transition, McLaren, busy rebuilding, and Red Bull, still trying to pretend they're untouchable. But in a sport where momentum shifts in seconds and dynasties crumble overnight, none of that matters if Aston Martin nails the 2026 car. Horner's possible comeback isn't just juicy gossip, it's the kind of move that rearranges alliances, unsettles boardrooms, and forces rival teams to recheck every strategy they thought was locked in. Because if this all lines up, Newey's car, Honda's engine, Horner's leadership, Alonso's fire, it's not just about competing, it's about domination. The story isn't about one man walking back into the paddock, it's about a team building an empire while everyone else is still recovering from last season. And if they pull it off, Aston Martin won't just be a name on the grid anymore, they'll be the next great dynasty. And Christian Horner, he won't just be back, he'll be back with vengeance, purpose, and the perfect storm at his back.